Hi guys, welcome to this video about CSS grid, and today I want to show you how to use four important properties. These are grid column starts, grid column ends, grid row starts, and grid row ends. So to show you how they work, I'm gonna have an HTML structure which can quickly define the layout of your website. And in order not to waste time, I'm going on this website, CSS Grid, and I'm just going to copy this that they have right here. It's an article. You can go there later on in your own time. So I'm just going to paste this here, right? And at the moment, this is what we have, right? So let me explain what we have here. First of all, we have one parent element, which is the div, this div right here, and it has the class container, because that's going to serve as our grid container, right? Now we have 9 children elements or direct descendants, and each of them have the class item. This is because we're going to use some styling that we want to apply on all of them, but we also want to target each of them individually later on when we just changing their order or their position. So that's why we have this item 1, 2, all the way to item 9 right here. So let's apply the basic styling for our items, and I'm going to start by item. Yeah, that's all, the item. And I want to set first the background color. Let's give it orange. Let's give them a black border, a solid one, and we want to apply padding, a padding of 5 pixels around them. So let's see what we have right here. I'm just going to click on run here, and cool, this looks better. So now I want to define our grid structure. So I'm going to do container. This is for the container class right here, and I'm going to say display grid. So you have to use this, and this is what is gonna allow us to use other grid properties later on in our design. So this doesn't do anything on its own, right? But then we have to define our structure, and we can do that using the grid templates columns and grid templates rows. So for our columns, let's say we want a 3 by 3 grid. I can say maybe we want 100 pixels, 100 pixels. So we want 3 columns of 100 pixels each, and the same thing for our rows. So let's see what we've got here. Cool. But now we want to have a website layout, right? A template, a basic website layout. So we want a header, a navigation. We also want, what do we want? Let's say an article section, a comment section, related articles. So let's say related 1, related 2. And the reason why I'm doing this is for us to know exactly what we're changing once we apply the other properties that I talked about. So we have a sidebar here, and let's add a footer. Oops, footer. Okay, so this is clearer now. As you can see here, the sidebar is the 8th element, and it appears here. But then once we change it, it can appear right here as if it was positioned somewhere in the middle. So what I'm trying to say here is that the order of your elements in your HTML structure does not matter anymore, thanks to the grid. So it's time for us to target the elements individually, these sub elements, and I want the header to span across from the start right here to the end here. So the header element is this one. It has the class item 1, and I'm going to use item 1 here, And I'm going to write the code and then I'm going to explain what it does. So grids column starts 1, grids column ends 4. Okay. So you see that now the header occupies the full row entirely, right? And what we're doing here is we're telling these elements to stretch from here to here to the end. So why are we using 1 and 4? 1 and 4 correspond to the grid lines. So in CSS grid, let me comment this out. You saw that at the beginning we had a 3x3 grid and there were 5 lines. So the first one here before the h of header is the first grid line, or you can also say is the first column grid column line because it's a vertical line. So this was the first one, the second one is before the n of navigation, the third one is before the a of article, and the last one is the fourth column grid line or grid column line. So we also have the same thing horizontally, the first one above the h of header, the second one above the c of comments, the third one above the r of related 3, and the very last one is the fourth grid row line. So here we're saying stretch from this first grid line, this grid column line, up to the last one, which is the fourth one. So I'm going to remove these comments here. I'm going to preview it, and there we have it. So let's do the same thing for navigation. We don't have to repeat the code here. So navigation is item 2 here. So I'm just going to add item 2 to this CSS rule, and it gives us this. Now notice that the height of the elements is not the same anymore. This is simple. In our grid here, the grid container, we had grids, template rows, and we only defined 3 rows. So the first 3 rows get assigned these 100 pixel values that we provided. The ones below here get automatic heights, and these heights are defined by the font size that we're using, the line heights, and also the padding. So if I was to say, for instance, that we don't need the padding anymore, I'm going to comment this out. You can see that now related 2, 3, sidebar, and footer have smaller heights. But in this case, we want to maintain it. So what we need to do at some point would be to modify our grid structure to take into consideration all the elements, because once one grid item takes off extra space, it pushes the other elements to new rows if there's no more space for them in that particular row. So in this case, header and navigation are pushing other elements to new rows. So we have 5 rows now. We'll come back to this later. For now, let's determine how our article grid items should stretch. That is number 3 here. So I'm going to say item 3 should span from grids column, should start at the first one, and grid column ends to the third one. So it will start here, it will stretch all the way to the second one and the third one here. So what do we have? Great. So now this is correct, but we want to apply the same thing to the comment section. So I'm going to add item 4 here. Great. So one thing that you need to note with CSS grid is when an element is taken out of its space and given like a specific position on the grid, the space it previously occupied can be empty. All right. Related one, for instance, this grid item is not going to jump automatically here. You have to define that in your code. So that's what I'm going to do next. But right, first of all, I think we need to move the sidebar somewhere here, okay, to the empty location and make it stretch at the end of comments. So where's the sidebar? Is this one here that we can see, item number 8. Item 8, and we want it to start on the third grid row line. So this time we're not going to use only grid column properties, we're also going to use grid row properties. In this case, grid row starts 3, grid row ends 5. Why are we saying 5? This is the first one, second one, third one. We want at the end of the article grid item is the 4th line, at the end of the comments item it's the 5th line. So that's what we want. And we also want the grids column start to be 3 and grid column end to be 4. So it will start at the end of the article item all the way to the end of the grid. And by the way, in CSS, if you don't define this, for instance, the grid column end, it will assume that you want it to stretch by one cell, you know, one item. So this is one cell, one grid item here, like related 2 is one cell, okay, related 3 is the second cell. In this case, article occupies the spaces of 2 cells horizontally. All right, so I just want to be specific here because it's a beginner tutorial. And if we preview this, now our sidebar is taking the space that we want it to, okay. The footer also has to stretch from the beginning to the end, so we can apply the same declarations as we did for the header and navigation here, which were item 1 and item 2. So in this case, I'm going to add item 9, which is the footer here. That's item 9. Let's preview this. Perfect. So let's adjust the heights of our elements here. We need to count how many rows we have. First of all, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here, grid template rows, we need to provide 6 values. I want to make it look like a basic website mockup, a real life one. So I'm gonna modify these values a bit. Let's say 50 for the header. That's where we're gonna have an ad and some maybe login links. The navigation usually is not that big. Let's make it 30. The article section is gonna be bigger, so maybe 150. The comment section, that's the 4th row, probably can be 60 pixels. Then related items can be 40 pixels, probably like quick thumbnails and excerpts of articles, and the footer can be maybe 70 pixels. Usually we'll have different links, URLs down in the footer. So let's preview this again, and this looks more realistic now. Now, assuming we wanted suddenly to swap their positions here, like the sidebar needs to be on the left and the article and comment sections need to be on the right. Right now we have the opposites. This is pretty simple now that we have our grid set up. So we'll just target the sidebar elements, which is item number 8 right here, and we'll say item number 8 should start on the first grid line and ends on the second one. We don't need to touch the row because we're not changing its position vertically, just horizontally. So it should just swap and jump to the left. So now we need to tell article and comment sections, which are these ones here, item 3 and 4. We need to tell them to start from the second one all the way to the fourth one. Let's see what we've got. That's it. So header navigation, it just moved, and we don't need to deal with floats, margins, paddings, and all of that. You just need to change or tweak some values, and there you go. So in seconds you can quickly change the layout of your website. That's the real power of CSS Grid. So I think that's going to be it for this video. I hope you learned something out of it. In the next video, probably I'm going to show you how to do something similar but using the shorthand properties. If you like this video, kindly subscribe to my channel for future videos, and please like it and share it with your friends as well, Facebook, Twitter, and everything. If you have any questions or suggestions, kindly leave them in the comment sections, and I will try my very best to reply to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching this video, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.